Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, Mr. Secretary, welcome. I had the honor a few weeks ago of accompanying the President on his trip to Israel. The Israelis have repeatedly said that they are willing to negotiate with the Palestinians face-to-face across the table with no preconditions. That's how the situation in Northern Ireland was taken care of. That's what you do when you really want to end a conflict. Unfortunately, the Palestinians have refused. This past week, Prime Minister Fayyad, one of the most moderate of the Palestinians, resigned. I'm wondering if you can give us your assessment about what's going on in the Middle East and what we're doing to back the Israelis in their legitimate quest to say we want to negotiate no preconditions. Also with Iran, it's clear to me that Iran is buying time as their nuclear program advances. The recent P5+1 talks seem to have failed, and talks are delayed now until the Iranian elections in June and Ramadan, which starts in early August. So when do we say enough is enough, and what's the administration's plans for moving forward? And on Syria, the State Department and USAID have worked hard to address the humanitarian catastrophe. But I don't believe this civil war can be won with only humanitarian assistance and diplomacy. Do you believe, Mr. Secretary, that the United States will have any type of influence in the post-Assad Syria if we don't provide certain elements of the Syrian opposition with the weapons necessary to defend themselves and force Assad from power? So I'd like you to answer those questions.
All 6 of them in 3 minutes.
We'll give you extra time.
Congressman Engel, let me start with your last question. I'm going to work backwards. On Syria, we are working very, very closely with the Syrian opposition, with the Syrian military coalition, and with our core partners, as well as with the standard groups, G8, et cetera. I was just at a G8 meeting. We met with the Syrian opposition at that meeting. And I am flying to Istanbul for a Saturday meeting with all of the core group members and more of the Syrian opposition, because we're trying to get everybody on the same page here. The fact is that some people are providing weapons, and they've chosen to do that. Others are apparently about to decide to, some of our friends. And others have chosen a different path of providing different kinds of assistance. The point is, the opposition, I believe, is making headway on the ground. I believe Assad's days are numbered. I'm not going to get into the game of months or how long. I'm convinced that he's going to go. The question is when and how. Obviously, there are dangers of extremists who are finding some funding and engaged in the battle, and we want to try to separate them if that is possible. We also want to make certain that the people we're working with are committed to pluralism, diversity, to a democratic process, to all Syrians being represented, including the Alawi, the Ismaili, the Druze, the Christians, so forth. There have to be a series of guarantees. So we're trying to proceed carefully to make sure that we're not contributing to a worse mess, but that we're actually finding a constructive path forward. The most important thing about Syria I want to leave with everybody is this. There is a communique that was issued in Geneva last year, which the Russians signed on to and the international community signed on to, that calls for a transitional government chosen by mutual consent from both sides, which obviously does not include Assad because he will not be consented to, which then provides for this opportunity for a peaceful transition that maintains the institutions of the state. That's a critical goal here. So we're trying to proceed thoughtfully and carefully, and I think this meeting this weekend is going to be a very important one in terms of determining what options might be available in the road ahead. On the Middle East, you can tell from my early travels and my engagements that we're committed to trying to find out what is possible. I am not going to come here today and lay out to you a schedule or define the process, because we're in the process of working that out with the critical parties. But in my meetings on both sides, I have found a seriousness of purpose, a commitment to explore how we actually get to a negotiation. And we all have some homework to do. We're doing that homework. And I ask you simply to give us a little bit of time here. But I can guarantee you that I am committed to this because I believe the window for a two-state solution is shutting. I think we have some period of time in a year and a half to 2 years, or it's over. And everybody I've talked to in the region and all of the supporters globally who care about the peace, and I've been struck in my travels, incidentally, by how many people everywhere raise this subject and want us to move forward on a peace effort. They're all worried about the timing here. So there's an urgency to this in my mind, and I intend, on behalf of the President's instructions, to honor that urgency and see what we can do to move forward. With respect to Iran, I just say to you very simply, we're in the closest communication possible with Israel, our friends, and others concerned about this. We are discussing the clock, the time frame on Iran's enrichment and on the nature of the threat. I think we're in sync, and the President has made his policy crystal clear. No option is off the table, and Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. That's the policy. I reaffirm it today, and we're going to continue to leave the door to diplomacy open, but we understand there is a clock.